It's another Elsie's Little Pickles, the pickle pod for the people, and we are working for you, the people, and the pickles, and
pickle people,
and other
pickle people,
other bipedal animals.
Did you say bipedal animal?
No, I said bipedal, but bipickled would have been so much better. That would have been
bipenal.
Yeah. Bipenal.
That is such a disturbing visual.
Oh, God. Talk about a two-pecker
just committed
goat.
mental mutiny.
Oh, my God. Just the idea of having to deal with two of them. Can you imagine? It's difficult enough carrying one around.
Left nut, right nut, penis in between us.
Oh, it's going to be one of those fucking pods. I can feel it already.
Most definitely.
Oh,
you know why? Because the world is crazy.
It's fucking nuts.
It's crazy.
It's gone.
Everything is gone.
Look, cats and dogs are getting along, but not people. Literally.
Yeah.
My cat and dog get along just fine. Can't get along.
Cats and dogs living together.
I swear to you, I can't deal with
favorite
people.
lines from Ghostbusters.
Yeah, well, I mean, Murray was the king. Yeah. That was Murray that did that line,
yes,
right?
He was.
So
yes.
All right, let's just jump into it with the news. Yeah. Yeah.
I've only got 2 news stories today because
thank God.
We're probably going to have to get into it here. Essentially, one of the news stories is, let me get the title here because of all these goddamn ads. Influential prophesizing pastors believe re-electing Trump is a win in the war of angels and demons.
Well,
angels and demons are trying to get into your prostate.
Yeah, it's just...
They get in there and they go tickle, tickle, tickle. And next thing you know, you have committed a sin.
Whether you wanted to or not. Sweet Jesus, sweet baby Jesus. Can you feel... You know what, actually...
Doesn't the Lord deserve a Porsche? Yes, he does, and he's asked me to drive it.
So if you pray really, really hard and really, really diligently, yet everything that you pray for, none of that shit comes true, does that mean that you have been Holy Ghosted?
Talk about a soul catfishing.
I don't see how they can look past who he is as a person. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of the evangelical wing of religion that does seem to have come to the conclusion that Trump is the second coming of Jesus, that he is the only one who can save us, that he is somehow touched by God, specifically after the assassination attempts. So there was a time when you couldn't
refresh for me. Which of the Gospels was Jesus fucking and paying the hookers?
You know what? I think that was in. Oh wait, no, it wasn't. It just wasn't there.
Sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I've read it twice.
It wasn't the Gospel according to W. Does Dallas?
No. It could have been the world according to Garp, but it's not. It's not in the Bible.
It's not the Gospel of Peter, the pumpkin eater who had a wife but kept beating it.
No. Still not there. I'm surprised that we haven't seen this week after the revelation.
Why is it called the Gospel? They didn't leave in the Gospel of John. Was John just, a John?
Yeah. John was just pimping. He was just out there pimping his ass off. So there has to be some confusion, I would think, within the evangelical party or voting bloc. There's got to be some confusion as far as like, okay, wait a minute, let me get this straight. All those things that you were telling us not to do, this guy did, and now you're saying it's okay because he's got our back. That's got to cause some confusion. That's got to cause some, I would think it would cause some to maybe leave the church, which if the numbers that I read are correct, and I don't know if they're correct or not, but there does seem to be kind of a bit of an exodus, if you will, out of the church. And not just evangelical church. I mean, like just in general, Christian churches seem to be losing members at a rapid rate. Now, when you add to the fact that Melania just came out and said that she was pro-choice, and that had to throw a little bit of a rip within the evangelical voting bloc for Trump, I would think. However, I also wonder if that was a stunt so that they could try to soften his appearance, saying, well, she's pro-choice. So she's got my ear. You know what I mean? Like, is that what's going on? Or, because you saw that with and we'll get to the debate in a minute, but you saw that with Vance. He did actually a pretty good job of trying to soften the Republican position on abortion. I thought
he met with those eyeliner eyes.
I know, he's got such magnificent lashes. I can't stand it. But I got to imagine that the whole Melania thing, that did have to throw, if it wasn't intentional to try to soften Trump and Vance on their stance on abortion, it had to have been a bit of a ripple. Now, the funny thing was, when asked about it, Trump actually said, I told Melania, you just follow your heart. Whatever you got to say, you just follow your heart. I'm not buying that. I think that Melania, if that's how she feels and if that's in the book, I'm not buying the book. I'm not reading the book. I'm not interested in Melania. And I'm not interested in putting money in her pocket, much less any other Trump's pocket. But I got to imagine that if that was the position that she took and it was meant to be used as a political tool, they would have had to have been thinking about this for quite some time, because it takes a while to get a book into the stores. I mean, so like, I don't know. I'm on the fence. I mean, maybe she is pro-choice. And I would think, just based on her history, she might have even had one or two. And I'm not judging her for that by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not judging her for that. If my view on abortion is every woman should have at least one. And the reason is because, yeah, it's your choice. You're the gatekeepers. You know what I mean? Like, if you fuck somebody, that if they had children, they would have demon spawn. And maybe you're the only thing preventing that little bastard from entering the world, and you know that, and you just had one too many margaritas and made a bad decision because he had those great lashes like JD Vance.
You think with Melania's book, there's a chance that Trump is looking up his, user product warranty on his wife?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm absolutely sure. It's
ship her back.
Like, I think he's at the point where he's old enough to not want to go through another divorce. Okay, but I don't think, like, I just don't picture him coming home from an event, or they get done having dinner at Mar-a-Lago, they go back to their quarters at Mar-a-Lago. I don't picture him like, tearing off the tie and the suit jacket and undoing a couple buttons and sitting on the couch, and Melania like throwing herself onto the couch and putting her feet on his legs and him rubbing her feet and talking about the day. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they have that kind of relationship where it's like, I think it's probably very, very
anything like that.
transactional.
Involves his credit card.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it's very transactional. I think that, and again, I don't know. She might be the most wonderful, sweet person on the planet who just picked wrong and is playing her cards the best she can because she sees the end of the rainbow and the pot of gold that might be sitting there. But I don't think Trump is at a point at 78 years old that he wants to go through another fucking divorce. I definitely don't think he wants to go through a divorce with Melania because of how bad it would look politically for him. So I think he's on board just as a transactional thing. And I mean, I've heard stories where like she won't show up at an event unless she's paid $25,000, and then speaking events where she's getting paid $250,000. It's like she's feathering her nest. That's the secret account. That's the secret bank account that Donnie doesn't know about.
Wouldn't it be great if he got elected and she divorced him in the middle of everything?
Again, I don't think she'll do that. I think it would be amazing. I think it would be in her best interest. But I don't think that that's the case. I don't think that that's how that relationship works. I think that relationship is, I think she paid attention to what went down in the first two relationships. And I think she played her cards accordingly. And I think even up until the point, and I'm sure she knew that while she was pregnant with Barron, that he was fucking porn stars and Playboy playmates. I'm sure that was, it was probably
today, Laura Loomer.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know that she gives a shit. Like, I don't think that that's what she focuses on. Like, I really don't. I think that what she's looking at is, I have planted my flag in a way that is going to pay off huge for me. And she's what, 53, 54 years old, 55 years old, something like that? He's 78.
I couldn't tell you.
He's 78, and he's been eating Big Macs and fucking fast food their entire relationship. She knows that it can't be long. I think she's probably surprised he's lasted this long. But, I mean, he's 78. What's she got to do? Put another couple of years in? Even if it's another decade, another 10 years, right, that she puts in on her little prison sentence, she's definitely going to do well. Not great maybe, but well. And unless...
You want to take her place?
What's that?
I said, do you want to take her
no,
place?
I don't think anyone wants to have that position. I think that there was a time that it might have been a good position, but I definitely think that in the last 10 years, and I would go even further, I would say ever since Barron was born, or she was pregnant with Barron, I would say that she was done with him because she needed that anchor baby. The Republicans are always talking about anchor babies. Barron is a fucking anchor baby. And at the end of that anchor is her little pot of gold. That's honestly how I think that relationship works. Now, obviously I'm not I'm not a fly on the wall. I'm not witnessing it. I'm just what I see and what I hear from her in interviews and stuff like that. It doesn't even sound sincere. It's like she's not even trying to act like she likes him. She says the words, but there's no emotion. So either she's a soulless beast, which is possible. I mean, she's got the snake eyes, so who knows? But I think in general, I think that I just don't picture Donald Trump saying, follow your heart and meaning it, because he's so transactional on everything. Like, he had to be thinking, how will I use this to my benefit? Don't you?
That's all he thinks about.
Honestly, I think that's all he thinks about is how do I use this to my benefit? And you know what? Good on you. If that's how you want to live your life, if you can sleep at night living that way, knowing that you're fucking people over, knowing that you're manipulating people, knowing that you're willing to say whatever it takes to get you to the next yes, okay, well, good for you. Not the kind of person I want to call a friend or president.
Well, in other news, Elon Musk is claiming that FEMA is blockading him from delivering Starlink to people who need it in North Carolina.
All right, so I'm a little confused on this story because the way I interpreted the story that I read regarding that was that he didn't get the contract he wanted from FEMA. So
I haven't read anything about a contract.
Okay, so I was under the impression that he was trying to nail down a contract with FEMA so that Starlink would be the internet provider of choice anytime there was a national or natural disaster in the United States.
Just on that idea, how absurd is that? This natural disaster has been brought to you by
Starlink. No, but I do see the point of that. I do see the point of he is the one who is most positioned to be able to create some sort of communication network through Starlink for first responders and obviously people affected by whatever the said natural disaster is. So I do think that there is, and again, I've soured a lot on Elon, especially since he's come out for Trump and some of the things that he's done ever since he bought Twitter.
I have not liked him since before that. There's been something about him that has always turned me off in taking him serious.
No, I get that part of it. I guess I was a little bit more forgiving of it because I did compare him or at least see him as the modern day Edison
there's a difference
or Nikola.
Forgiving and forgetting.
Yeah, no, I'm not forgetting. I know he's an asshole. I know he's weird. I know he's got his issues. You know what I mean? But there was within the last 4 years, 3-4 years, there was a sense of playfulness with him and excitement and curiosity. Not what we're seeing in the last 3-4 years as much of the kind of go fuck. Yeah, and the kind of go fuck yourself attitude and the every word that is uttered should be considered free speech. I don't know that I agree with that. And I'm a huge free speech proponent. In fact, I would defend to the death his right to say that and believe it. That's how much of a free speech guy I am. But I do think that when you have a platform like Twitter, which he calls the community square, and by many observations is a bit of a community square. I think that you do have to have in every community square. Look, I put it a different way. I forget who the comic was, but basically they said something to the effect of a guy, social media is the town square, and some guy goes into the town square and nails up a flyer that says guitar lessons. If you're interested, call, right? And some guy goes up to that telephone pole, sees that poster, and starts screaming at the top of his lungs, I don't want fucking guitar lessons. I don't want fucking guitar lessons. That's what Twitter is.
I've seen that.
Okay, and I forget who the comic was, and it's bothering me because that was a great observation. But that's what Twitter has become. Now, if that happened in your small town anywhere, town square, the sheriff would come by and go, dude, you got to calm it down. Bring it down a notch. You can't be like that, right? Is that infringing on that person's freedom of speech? I don't think so. That's saying you're throwing a fucking temper tantrum for no fucking reason. If you don't want guitar lessons, don't call that number. If you don't want to get upset about politics, don't read the political tweets. If you don't want to see porn, don't look at porn. It's just like the TV, the old Carlin expression. It's got two knobs. You can change the channel or you can turn it off.
Well, this has more to do with him wanting to get Starlink into the hands of the people who need it. What is not mentioned in these stories is that FEMA already has Starlink and has been giving them out. They've given out, I think, over 200. Was the last thing that I read.
So why were they having difficulty with communications? I'm looking at you, Elon. I'm looking at you.
And directly, the idea that the pushback from FEMA basically is further shipments were purportedly being held up by FEMA until local authorities could provide an escort. That is something that I think your average moron out there isn't thinking about, is that the damage done apparently is worse than Katrina.
Oh, yeah.
And the only thing worse than having to go out and try to find survivors, try to save people, is to go out and try to save people who wandered out. As great as the intention is, but having to save someone who's out there to save them.
Yeah.
You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. No, I got you.
And there's a large part of that, and it's being overlooked. But what's not being overlooked is Elon Musk. He's got his tampon twisted and is crying out that FEMA is blocking him. Well, that probably has a lot to do with him being jerk-off pals with Trump.
See, again, I don't think that enters into it. I just don't.
I think it does. I really do think it does.
Okay, lay it on
Anything to make them look bad. I mean, in the last 48 hours, Trump's been pushing FEMA doesn't have the money because they spent it all on illegal immigration.
Which is not true.
Nothing to do with it. Yeah.
And not even close to true.
But Pete Buttigieg has popped off.
I love when Mayor Pete pops off. He's so fucking good.
He's basically saying, direct quote, "No one is shutting down the airspace and FAA doesn't block legitimate rescue and recovery flights. If you're encountering a problem, give me a call," as a message to Elon. You want to get these out, give me a call.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just send random people out there because we're probably going to end up having to save them, basically.
Right.
And that's something that your average Joe Bob, Jim Henry Bob is not thinking about.
Yeah, there's not much. Yeah, there's not much thought when it comes to logistics. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's not much thought for the general public, specifically the MAGA social media trolls. They're just looking for a reason to point a finger and try to gain a point for Trump. And that's the problem with our fucking country. I mean, now, there.
There are reports that Ivanka Trump has arrived in North Carolina and is helping with her organization or something, a couple of organizations to make food for people. And she showed up with like 200 starlings and FEMA took them. They were upset because they wanted to hand them out to people. And, if you put 2% into thinking about it, the people who need these are in inaccessible areas.
Correct.
In the mountains.
Right.
They're not coming down so easily to grab a meal and a starling. They're trying to reach these people by horses and donkeys, like old school.
Yeah, they have no choice. Yeah, they can't even use
the
ATVs or anything
off-road vehicle.
Yeah, they can't even use ATVs because the shit is so bad. You got to use some sort of four-legged animal like a horse or a donkey in order to get to those places. And that's the thing is
how do they expect to get starlings to these people? You give them to an expert who can get through stuff, not fucking Ivanka Trump.
No,
I know her heart's probably in the right place. Maybe, I don't know. I have a hard time thinking anything positive with anyone with the name Trump.
It is difficult. It is difficult to believe that.
I'm trying to give the benefit of the doubt, but I mean, quite honestly, if I was a survivor and I'm trying to make it in the mountains of North Carolina, and someone's like, "Oh, hold on, Ivanka Trump is coming," I'm probably going to die of laughter.
Yeah.
Like, has it gotten that bad?
Yeah, it's so bad that the bitch in heels is going to try to traipse up the mountaintop.
The end of the world.
Yeah.
A Trump is coming up here.
I would believe that her heart was in the right place if there was no news story. Like if that was found out much, much later. Like she specifically said, "Look, I'm not doing this for news coverage, so do not look, when everyone's recovered, and if you want to tell that story then, fine. But I don't want to take advantage of a disaster to try to score political points for my dad." You know what I mean? Like that would be a news story, like how do you do this without making it almost political? And she said she wanted to step back from politics. So why don't you step the fuck back from politics? If you're going to do something nice, do that. That's great. And good on you for that. But when you come at it from the knowing that your presence, your mere presence is going to create problems. Yeah. Don't do that. Okay. It's the reason why presidents historically wait to go to any type of natural disaster zone or any type of area where something horrific has happened.
Yeah. It's because they don't want to interrupt the rescue efforts.
Exactly.
If you think that a person like the president or vice president can just, I'm going to hop a plane and go over there. No, that's not how it works.
At all.
The Secret Service would be like, we have to secure the area, and
Which
all
means
of the
they have to go
things
out.
involved.
Yeah, they got to go out ahead. You got to have the lead team go out. They've got to decide where she's going to go. They've got to map that area out. They've got to put protections into place. They got to take police off of the duty of rescue and search and rescue and put them on protection duty locally. Yeah. There's no good that comes of that. You know what I mean? Like, you can do good things, whether you're Ivanka or Kamala or Joe Biden or even Donald Trump, without actually going to the place. And that, I think, is something that needs to be said. Don't go and when you're that level popular or unpopular, people are going to come out for all the wrong reasons. And most importantly, it's not helping the effort. She could easily have said, way on the download, she could have, if it's through one of her charities, she could have sent the charity out there without any announcement about her being involved whatsoever. And it would have just been, I'm sure it says Trump somewhere in the charity name, but she could have helped without drawing attention to her. And it's the same with Elon. He could help without drawing attention to him. That's the problem, is everyone wants the fucking attention because they're utilizing it for a political reason. And that even if they never tweet or post on Facebook about it, they know that those pictures will be gobbled up by their fan base and manipulated with whatever message that base wants to put out there, but it's going to always be in favor of their person. And not to say Dems don't do that too. I'm not saying that. I'm simply saying that it seems to be happening a lot lately. Obviously because of the political cycle, but more importantly, it seems to be very much one-sided, which makes me wonder if there's a little bit of worry on the Trump camp, whether he's going to pull it off. I don't know. All the polls are showing that that Kamala is within the margin of error, but not necessarily beyond that. So it doesn't mean that she's going to win based on the polling. And they typically underestimated Trump, but now I'm wondering if they're overestimating him, trying to correct mistakes of their past in polling to get their polling company a little bit more credibility. You know what I'm saying?
So how did you feel about the vice president debate?
I got to be honest with you. I didn't really feel much. I think there's been a lot of hay made regarding who won. And I think I would say that it really boils down to almost a 60-40 right now. It seems like 60% of the punditry and talking heads feel like Vance won it. And it may even be a little bit more, maybe 70-30, but it's definitely in between that area, calling Vance the winner in that. Okay, great. It's kind of like Canadian money. What good is first place if second place goes to a beaver? So I didn't see really much point in it.
Well, I thought it was very damning for Vance. Basically cried out, "Why are you fact-checking me? We agreed to no fact-checking."
Right.
Basically saying, "Why aren't you letting me get away with lying?"
Yeah, and that, like I said, I think that there's points where Vance was very, very eloquent and on point and kept his shit together. And there were points where Walz did not. I mean, Walz was definitely not as polished as Vance. I think even when he called himself a knucklehead.
See, I think that endeared him.
Yeah, but we're from the Midwest, so it endeared him to us. I don't think that that's as endearing nationally. I don't think that in Arizona or Nevada, they see that as endearing. I don't think in North or South Carolina or in Georgia, they find that necessarily endearing. I think that was almost a sign of weakness and nerves. The one thing I would say is I think that Walz won on substance. I think that he was calling out Trump, and JD had to defend not only himself and some of the things that he's had to say in the past, but more importantly, Walz needed coaching for television to a degree. He is great in a crowd, but yeah, he had those great big eyes going often, and that kind of shocked, like, I think I just shit myself look on his face more times than I carried. Like,
have that look. He didn't shit himself. Let me specify. He did not shit in his drawers. He just had that look.
Yeah, he had that look like, oh, to quote your song, "Don't trust that fart." He had that "don't trust that fart" look.
Yeah.
And
I'm not sure if I farted or if I just shat.
Yeah. So there was a lot of unnecessary facial movements and unnecessary faces made. Now, does that bode poorly for him? A little. But if we're comparing that to Trump and the faces he's made during debates, it probably doesn't mean shit. Like, if we're comparing apples to apples on that one, I don't know that it matters. JD ran away from the question of whether or not Trump won the 2020 election. And I think he did that because he knew that he had an audience of one, and he knew he'd have to answer for that after the debate at some point.
Daddy gonna be mad.
He didn't want to make Daddy mad. And I think that like, he knows his place. You know, his place is to make Trump sound smarter than he is, and to make those policies that are being put out there sound more palatable than they are. And he's really good at that. He's got the X factor when it comes to public speaking, at least in a debate setting. I don't know. I don't think he's as good in a rally setting. I don't know if you would agree with that or not. I've watched him in a couple of rallies, and I think he's kind of eaten shit. But in a debate setting, that's where his comfort zone is. That's where his happy place is. And he's able to keep calm and keep his face from giving away what he's thinking. Like, it's almost like the soul left his body before the cameras went live. And he was able to keep it that calm, where it was almost, oh God, I hate to say it, but it was almost like I said, like puppetry in a way, because he almost had no expression through the vast majority of that debate. And some people find that to be the sign of somebody who's calm and collected and going to be a good leader. I don't know.
No,
I don't know with him.
As someone who has rehearsed in front of a mirror how to properly tell a lie without looking like you're lying.
I think you might actually be more correct on that than me, is that there was definitely
I mean, did he tell some lies?
He told some doozies. He did. He told some doozies. But does that move the needle? You know what I mean? Like, does that move the needle for good or for bad for Trump and Vance? I don't think so. Just like I don't think it moved the needle for Harris and Walz. I don't think that, even under the circumstances that we're in right now, with this election being so unique and unusual historically, I just don't think that that's moving the needle. I think that these guys are meant, and that was the other thing that was interesting. VPs are meant to be the president's pit bull in a way.
Yeah.
And go out and attack. And this was the most civil debate I think I've ever seen. And
they're very complimentary to each other.
Yeah, and I'm a political junkie going back to Clinton. All right, so going back to the Clinton 92 debates, 91, 92, back to that era. So I've watched a ton of debates, and I've been fascinated with debating for a very long time, and I just was amazed at how civil they were to each other. They were really willing to give each other credit for being a decent person, like and wanting to solve the problem. And if it were my choice, forget how much I dislike Vance in that particular setting. I didn't hate him. And I think that that's ultimately what they were trying to do, is create a circumstance where they go, well, we know you don't like him because of how low his numbers are. But after this, hopefully you won't hate him. And I think that they succeeded in that. So in that sense, I got to give Vance the win. Now, you had said something to me earlier where you said you almost want to throw away the top of the ticket and just have these two hash out how to fix shit.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you're too far off. You know what I mean on that? I think that
the two clowns, I'm going to say that because in the sense that they were basically hitting each other over the head with inflatable hammers, trying to make each other look bad. And it's really easy to do with Trump.
Yeah, but I mean, but it was still so civil.
But these two, I felt like leave them in a room for a couple of months. They could probably hash out a bipartisan way to try to kind of fix everything.
See, I think that that's what this election is about, though. Okay, like this is the peak of silly season and kabuki theater, right? Everything is, you're going to lose the country if you vote for this person. Your life is going to be over if you vote for that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to a certain degree, the top of the ticket does get sucked into that. But I think that this might be the last of that for a while. I think, because did you see the interview? I forget who was interviewing Trump, but they asked him if he lost this election, if he was going to run in 2028. And very quickly and very cognitively put together, he went, no, this is it. If I don't win, I'm not running again. And
I read that, but I didn't see it.
It was one of those things where he said it so clearly for Trump and with such a short answer, but it was one of those things.
A few minutes later, say that he would have to really think about it.
You know what, though? I think his first answer was the real answer. I think the second one was, I need to make my base feel like I'm always going to be there for them. I really don't. I think that it was, when he first answered it, it was as if he was being asked, would you like pepper? No, I don't want pepper.
Would you like a Big Mac?
Yes, I would like a Big Mac, but not with pepper. Like it was that. It was one of those things where it's like, no, clearly this is a dismissive decision. You've already thought this through. There's no point in beating a dead horse. This is it. 12 years of running for president and 4 years of being president. I think that's good. Or 8 years of running for president. Well, no, it would be what? Yeah, it would be 8-9 years of running for president. But like I said, I mean, at the end, I think he gets it. Like, if I can't pull it off this time,
yeah,
I'm not pulling it off.
Well, nothing says I am for the everyman than owning a gold toilet.
Yeah, well, and that's where he'll sit, until they lock him up. I think really the reason why he's running more than anything, it has more to do with not just his ego, which I think that's a very large driving factor, is he couldn't believe he got beaten. He was going to run again regardless. Like, he filed to run in 2020, 2 months after he was elected in 2016. So he knew he was going to run again.
No.
And I get that. It was his first term. He was planning for a second term. I don't hold any ill will towards that. But I think that this time, I think he realizes, this is, I can only lose so much before they realize I've lost. And I can only run this dog and pony show of it's rigged for so long. And really, at 78, why would you want to? Why wouldn't you, with his money and all that? I mean, aside from the fact that it could potentially keep him out of jail. And I think that's a big thing hanging over him, is that I think he's running so hard right now because that's the only way to prevent the federal cases against him. He knows he's not getting out of these other cases, but he also knows that with enough lawyering, he can push him off, and probably prevent him from having to write a check to anyone until after he's dead, if then. I think he knows that he can fight state cases pretty effectively. I think he's done that long enough and hard enough throughout his life. He knows how to delay, and then, find the one little thing that gets him off because of, procedure or whatever. But I do think that I would ask, our listeners, aren't you tired of it? Hasn't it been enough?
Yes.
I mean, like, how much it's poor me, but I'm the strongest one for you. Like, if he can't win for himself, what makes you think he's going to win for you? You know what I mean? Like, I find it difficult. I find it difficult to believe that people aren't just exhausted with his rhetoric, not to mention the Republican Party rhetoric. So I think for me, one of the things that, when I say exhausted with the rhetoric, exhausted with the division and tribalism, is the idea that we all have lost family members and friends because of the political environment since Trump entered the game. Like, I don't ever remember. I'm sure that it happened, all along, like, people, oh, you support Reagan or you support Clinton, and they didn't like it. But man, I mean, like, the total loss of lifelong friends and family members that you just can't even talk to anymore. And then on top of it, the merchandising of it, I think, has got us to the point where you see somebody with a MAGA hat, and if you're not MAGA, you immediately know that person's a fucking idiot. Or at least you assume so, right?
Usually the assumption is correct.
A lot of times.
But the division in families is very, well, kind of heartbreaking. We all have different opinions, and whatever. This election is not going to last forever. You hope no matter who gets elected that there is no violence. But the animosity within families, I mean, you'll see people treating people horribly or reacting violently sometimes. What Steve doesn't know is that I've replaced his regular coffee with Folgers instant coffee with flavor crystals. Let's see if that affects him.
What the fuck is this? You piece of shit. I disown you as my brother.
Throw back to anybody that's around the age of 50 that remembers those commercials.
Yeah, those were great. No, I don't know. Like, again, that's you being more of the teddy bear, I think. For me, I can't look past it. I really can't. I try.
I'm right there with you. There is that feeling when you look at somebody and you're like, I thought I knew you.
Yeah. 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 There really is.
I didn't know that you were a closet fascist.
Exactly. That's it exactly. I mean, there are guys
harbored so much anger for somebody else just because they're a little different. There
are guys that I used to be friends with, all right, a couple in particular, where it's like, dude, seriously, I've been there for you when you were like going to get your ass handed to you by a couple other people, and I stood up, or I helped hook you up with that chick, or whatever the case may be. And then you just start rethinking once you see that kind of like closeted fascist mentality or MAGA mentality, you start to question all your decisions with how you've approached people in life. And
maybe if I had to let them get pounded in the head a few times,
well, that's
what changed something.
You wonder if, like, am I a bad judge of character? Because clearly I didn't see that coming. And, with family members, you're stuck because they're family. But, by the same token, there are a lot of family members I do not and will not have future contact with. And it's at one point, I'm sure we will. I'm sure a lot of these relationships in the course of time will be mended in one form or another, but they're not going to happen without an acknowledgement. You know what I mean? Like that other person has to acknowledge, yeah, no, I was wrong on that one. I mean, I'm happy to admit when I'm wrong on anything, but this is Trump is a fucking disease.
To do that. They don't like to do that.
They don't. No one does. Well, no one does.
It's the thing that I keep seeing recently, over the last month, is the whole, oh yeah, you're going to take the word of Taylor Swift, who's made an entire career out of writing about her bad decisions. Well, you'd probably do the same thing too if you had talent and the brains to do it when, you kept choosing the wrong people in life.
Exactly. But I do feel like at some point, these people, no matter how just devoted for whatever reason they are to Trump, there's got to be a point where even they go, okay, look, he's lost twice in a row. He's lost, he lost the Senate. He lost the fucking House. He lost this. He lost that. He lost the fucking White House. He lost. And every time he keeps saying the same fucking thing. Oh, they're out to get me. Well, maybe it's not they're out to get you. Maybe you're just wrong. Like maybe you need to look in the mirror for a minute. Like I got to imagine no matter how stupid or devoted or enamored or whatever other word you want to use for these real hardcore Trump fans, there's got to come a point where even
people chose to fire you.
Yeah. there's got to be a point where the most devoted Trump fan just gets exhausted hearing the same rhetoric. And for whatever reason that may be, it could be any number of reasons that they finally have had enough and they're like, I'm just not listening. I'm not excited for that. No, I'm not going to the rally. I know it's only 20 minutes from the house. I've heard it. I've seen it. It's kind of like going to the same Renaissance festival, right? Year after year after year. You know what you're going to get. And it's not going to be that different from the previous year. And you can do that for a number of years before you finally go, you know what? I think I'm going to keep the fucking admission fee. And that turkey leg isn't that important to me. And you know what? I can get a Scotch egg at the deli. like at some point, you start to go, even the things that really mean a lot to me about that particular event, I can substitute that locally without going. I can get my fix in a different way. I'm tired of that show. You know what I mean? Like I'm by the same token, I'm not the guy that gets going to multiple. Like I don't watch typically a movie twice. You know what I mean? Like, I do, but not a lot. It's a very rare occasion I'll watch a movie twice. I don't watch very many series that I won't watch twice. There's a few that I've watched, multiple times. In fact, more than 10. Game of Thrones being one of them. Breaking Bad. Those are shows that are just so good that, Sopranos, The Wire, you can give it some time and then go back and re-enjoy it, Trump's not that, and he's not giving any time. He's just continuously pushing on and on and on relentlessly with the same fucking tired show. Like how many times doing stand-up for almost 30 years, right? Every week, you typically have two guys that were different in front of me, right? So a new opener, new MC, and a new feature act. And no matter how great they were, if we had a 6 or 7 show week, I was over their show by the end of the fucking week.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
There's a comment that the great Jim Ross in wrestling has to say occasionally in his podcast. And I'm going to apply it to this, which is based on wrestlers and their returns and how there's only one way that it actually works, which is, how can we miss you if you never go away?
Exactly. And he's never gone away. And I think that that's what he's learning on this go around. I do think that it's starting to come. There's no way that he's not seeing, at least in some venues, and I'm not saying all, but in some venues, he's seeing smaller crowd sizes. So he's got to realize that that shtick is no longer really working, at least the way it did. And I, like I said, I think that I don't even think that this is really going to be an election over policy as much as it is, okay, what do we have to do to get you to go home? I think that that's really what this election has become. It's go fucking home, dude. You never went home. Go away for a minute. Like give us a couple of months without your name in the news cycle. Give us a little bit of peace. Give us a break. Let us miss you. Like, if you look at how much I disagreed with George W. Bush by the end of his presidency, and then he went away. And then the next time I saw him, he looked a lot older, but he was a lot friendlier. He was just relaxed. And you know what? Suddenly, even though I knew I disagreed with him on policy, I didn't disagree with him as a human being. Like I could see myself enjoying his company, you know? And then you see him with like Michelle Obama at any event, and he's just so adorable and endearing. Like you just want to forget all the bad stuff. Trump never went away so we could forget the bad stuff. And he's not going away. Like, he's not going away. The only way he's going away is if he loses this election and then gets prosecuted and gets thrown in jail. And he's not going to get thrown in jail. I mean, anyone who thinks that they're going to throw an ex-president in jail for any number of reasons, including the fucking insurrection, don't hold your breath.
Don't harsh my buzz, man.
No, I'm not saying it's not a dream.
One can hope. One can hope.
I'm not saying I don't hope.
No, I don't think he'll go to jail.
But will he get?
It would be entertaining.
Maybe house arrest at Mar-a-Lago. Oh, that's so troubling for him. You know, as long as he can golf, do you think he's going to give a shit? And house arrest. I mean, how do we define that? Is that Trump Tower? Is that Bedminster? Is that Mar-a-Lago? Is that, I mean, you could
replace his Diet Coke with Shasta Diet.
Yeah, I mean, like, that they're going to make some level of compromise and consideration because he's an ex-president at this point, So, like, all that other bullshit, I mean, he's going to run that legal system through every possible hoop in order to get as little punishment as possible out of it and lose as much and lose as little money as possible out of it. And you know what I mean? Like, none of that is reality in my book. And so I look at the devastation that he's caused in the last 8 years, and I just think, God damn, do you not see this? How do you not see this? How do you see, like, if you're a MAGA supporter, how do you see any of that behavior as behavior of somebody who's coming from a position of strength or power? Whether you're talking the world stage with dictators and or adversaries, whether you're talking allies or adversaries, it doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter. He has destroyed families, relationships, friendships, the idea of institutionals, like the institution of this country. He's disrespected with his followers, the Capitol. What will it take? What will it take? I mean, do we have to have that kind of Reagan-Mondale blowout where every state except for maybe one goes to Kamala in order for him to realize, no, people don't want me, and maybe I should go away. I need to go away. But he's like fucking Jason, right? Just every time you turn around, he just fucking... He's Michael Myers. Just keeps coming back. He's Freddy. Keeps coming back.
Friday the 13th, part 97.
The motherfucker's still alive, even though we killed him in the last 96, right? Like, so I don't know. I have hope that Kamala wins, and again, this isn't even about policy. It's about him as a fucking human being. and the devastation that he's brought across the board.
If I'm perfectly honest with you, Friday the 13th, part 97, they would only have killed him for the 95th time. Because the first movie,
He didn't die.
he wasn't in it.
Ooh,
it was his mother.
That's right.
Just saying. Actually,
I don't know, man. Like I said, I find that we're in a position where when one individual in the entire country of 330 million people can literally shit in everyone's Cheerios on the daily, like that's enough.
Let me apologize also, because that was probably a spoiler alert. I know the movie was like 40 years old, but spoiler alert, the first one was his mother was the killer. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, we don't want you to. Yeah, you know what we want.
I'll probably get an email. Damn it! I was planning on watching it. You ruined it.
All right, so since we're doing a little bit of Halloween in every episode, I think, at least it seems that way right now, we're going to do a quick one. This is going to be easy. This is a quick one.
Okay.
All right.
And you got is it a question?
It's a question. Yeah, it's a question.
All right.
All right.
Hit me with it.
All right. So we all obviously know Halloween is about knocking on doors and getting candy when you're a kid.
Yes.
That's the big thrill, right?
Yeah.
Now, we also know that every parent has their favorite candy bar, right? So in our house, Mom was the Milky Ways.
Yep.
And Dad was the Baby Ruth.
Correct.
Okay. So we knew whenever we saw a Milky Way or Baby Ruth go into our bag, we knew that that was not ours. We weren't getting that.
Like, there's a chocolate tax.
Yeah. So the only way that we would ever have either of those two was if we saw it go into the bag, grab it off the top, and eat it on the way to the next house, leave the fucking wrapper in the bag, and hopefully not get caught by Dad as we were walking, right? So my question to you, your three...
Do you know that I was probably 16 or 17 years old before I actually had a Baby Ruth?
I was about the same. It was pretty close to that.
Well,
I might have been 13.
No, I've never had one before.
I might have been 13 before I had a Milky Way or a Baby Ruth. Honestly.
Yeah.
All right.
Had to hide them. Yeah, go ahead.
So as a kid, not today, as a kid, what were your top three, like, score? And I'm not talking about when you get a full size, because a full size candy bar was a score no matter what. And an apple was a piece of shit and we were pissed. Pennies, who fucking is giving out pennies?
Oh, but you got the little baggie of Better Made chips.
I hate
like, oh, yeah.
See, I did not like that. I hated that. I hated chips.
The McDonald's certificate for a free burger or ice cream. I like that too.
No, not me. Not me. I wanted the fucking candy. I wanted the fucking candy, and you should know better as an adult that Halloween's not about popcorn balls. It's not about bags of popcorn. It's not about chips. It's not about... No.
Fucking those jerks that handed out the pennies or the little box of raisins.
Fuck you. Raisins? Are you serious?
Get TP'd.
Oh, yeah. No, they would usually get dog shit in the bag burning on their fucking... that would be what I would do.
We will, on one of the future shows, get into antics that we've done on Devil's Night.
Oh, and
fuck you to anybody who calls it Angel's Night. I'm still pissed about that.
Yeah, that's bullshit. And we grew up at a time when Devil's Night, specifically in the Metro Detroit area, meant shit was burning. Like, we knew how to do Devil's Night. And then they really clamped down on it and it became an issue, and, as all things do. All right, so, as a kid... And when I say as a kid, I'm saying under 10 years old. Top three favorite candy bars where you're like, score. Even if it was a miniature, it didn't matter if it was miniature or full size. Obviously, full size is a score, but it didn't matter what that was. Mm-hmm. Well, like out of all the little candy bars, what were your 3 to 5 that you were like, fuck yeah, score?
The 3 to 5 of them, I can off the top of my head think of 3. 1, Reese peanut butter cup. 2, Kit Kat. Love Kit Kat.
Yep.
Always have, always will.
Mm-hmm.
3 was something you didn't typically get all the time. I would end up with a few. If I noticed it, I would go back to the house that had it with, that was one of our beautiful things of you and I. There were some years that we had two costumes.
Mm-hmm.
Big furry head or whatever over your head, the mask. Yeah, you went down the street, went to the next house, you circled back, take off the mask, and you got makeup on.
Mm-hmm.
They never noticed.
No.
So these were the houses that I'd go back to if they gave out 1,000 grand.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Those were good.
Yeah.
Not in my top 3, but definitely a good choice. That would probably make my top 10.
For number 4, I would go with Rolos.
Oh, yes. Yes, Rolos.
Yes.
I would definitely go with Rolos.
So what are your top 3, 4, or 5?
Okay, so for me, it would start with I was always a big fan of Kit Kat. I was always a fan of Reese's, but at that time, it wasn't in like today, it would be in my top 3, but when I was under 10, no. So for me, It would have, yeah, I don't know why. I've always liked it.
You weirdo.
No, I always liked it. Like I said, it'd be in my top 10 under 10 years old. It would be in my top 10. It would probably be about 6 or 7, though. It wouldn't be in my top 5. So for me, it would have been.
Let me before you get to, I want to add an honorable mention to the little package of Chuckles, the jelly sugary candy that tastes like fruit. That was always nice for a palate cleanser, if you will.
And you used to get all of my Chuckles because I fucking hated those types of candies. I fucking hated them. To me, it was like,
except for the packages, I had the black one because I do not like black licorice, and that flavor would seep into everything else.
Yeah, it would literally, it would get into your soul. So for me, it would have been Kit Kat. It would have been, oddly, Snickers. I really dug Snickers as a kid.
Really?
Yeah. And the third one that's going to be a little bit of a shock, but is age appropriate for that time, Pop Rocks. We used to get Pop Rocks.
I do remember getting Pop Rocks. I never would go crazy over. I probably gave them to you.
Yeah, I think you did.
Yeah.
And I just, for some reason, was enamored with them when they first came out. I thought it was just crazy that I could dump this fucking candy and it would just pop in my mouth.
You chug a Coke and see my stomach will blow up.
Exactly. Like I was always, that was totally where I was coming from. I don't know. Oh, actually, I need to amend that. Number 1 on that list, number 1 would have been Tootsie Rolls.
Oh,
and it didn't matter if it was the midges or the bigger ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I really liked was the like vanilla ones that would come. Like that was the time of year you could get the flavored different little Tootsies. And I don't even know if they were actually Tootsie Rolls or if they were.
No, they were multi-flavored Tootsies. There's somebody in our household that would probably shank a bitch to get a bag of those.
Yeah, they were amazing.
They love them that much.
Yeah. And then Rolo. So it would have been Tootsie Rolls. It would have been Kit Kat. It would have been Rolos, Tootsie Rolls, Pop Rocks, Kit Kat, and Snickers for me. And I think that's a great place to put a pin in it. It's been another Elsie's Little Pickles, bitches.